paranormal. It surrounds us. It's everywhere. Tonight, you will hear from the people who live and work within these highly active locations, all in the efforts to discover America's most haunted. With your host, ghost hunter and author, Dan Terry.
Good evening, boys and ghouls. I am Dan Terry, your ghost host with the most haunted. And we are going back to my favorite city. In fact, if you notice, this side, there we go. I'm wearing my Jean Lafitte's Blacksmith Shop shirt. And if you've been around me long, you know what that means. We're talking New Orleans, America's most haunted city. Got the best music, the best food. I don't know why I don't live there. It's an awesome place. My guest tonight is Dr. Rory O'Neill Schmitt, and she is a former resident of the Crescent City, and she's written a book called The Haunted Guide to New Orleans. So we're going to be talking about the ghosts of New Orleans and a little bit about her new horror short, and I think she did this just to get to me, and you guys know what I'm talking about. It's called The Elegant Dead Trapped with Dolls. And frankly, if there's a hell and they put me in it, I'm going to be surrounded with dolls. You know how I feel about that. So, but let's bring Rory up because I want to hear more about what she has seen in haunted New Orleans. Hi, Dr. Schmitt.
Hi, Dan. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, dolls are terrifying. I'm glad that you and I share that fear.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Ghost dolls. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in New Orleans, and we had these China-faced dolls that were, passed down from my grandmother and my mother, and they would be across from my bed. And my sister and I had little twin beds in a pink room, but they would just be staring at us. I don't know, something very ominous about these dolls, just kind of always looking so alive and like they're going to get ready to speak, but then they're kind of empty. But there's something menacing about dolls. I totally agree.
I think so. Now, when I was a little bitty kid, had a Popeye doll. He protected me in the night. He was fine because he doesn't look human. My sister had this one in particular. It was a 60s looking black and white dress and hair and weird blue eyes. And I always thought, I'm going to get up one night and it's going to be in my room. I know it's going to be there. I could just tell there was something wrong with that doll.
Yes. Well, I learned that that some people believe that spirits find dolls and it's like becomes a host. That's what some people believe for these spirits. Okay. And so when someone dies and leaves their body, it looks so human-like that it becomes kind of this receptacle to contain their spirit. But I don't know. With dolls, I've never really found one that I thought looked very warm and welcoming. So I have a show and tell for you, Dan, today, and for your. So this is one of my favorite dolls, and I don't know how my mom got this. My mom, who wrote the book, The Haunted Guide to New Orleans, with me. But yes, and imagine traveling across the country with a suitcase full of dolls like this. People thought I was nuts. But when we made this short film, I wanted to make sure that I brought, authentic dolls to decorate the set with. And this one's one of my favorites because, you can even her head can move kind of like the Chucky doll. And she has these really lifelike eyes too. And, all these antique dolls, they're dressed with cute little leather shoes and lace dresses. But I think there's something about this beautiful innocence with the opposite of malevolence kind of combined. And so I just kind of, I've always kind of been curious about these dolls, but loving them, but also being terrified. I don't know if it doesn't really make sense to love something and also be scared of it.
Well, I don't get into dolls much. I mean, like I said, I've just always had that thing about them. I did do, and I think I told you about it, a shop that had these really human-looking dolls. And at one point, the lady comes in the morning, and they are in a circle kneeling with another one in the center. and they're not even supposed to stand up. They were balanced. And she swears nobody was in there that night. They checked the cameras, didn't show anything. So she was certain there was something wrong with those dolls. And I said, I can look at them and tell you there's something wrong with them. Yes.
That is terrifying. That is terrible. But stories like that, I just have to say, like, ghosts are real. So many people have these experiences, and it's hard for me because, I'm an academic. I write these non-history books. How can you write a non-history book about ghosts? And I said, well, I just approach this like any other research or book I write. What do people say in the city? What's documented? What's in the history of that building? Like, look at that's supposed to have all these ghosts of actors falling to their death, or people having illicit affairs, or sometimes they're helpful. Like, they helped my friend Stephen find a sword, a prop in the attic when he asked.
Wow.
It's good to, I always would recommend, asking the ghosts for help and like being positive, recognizing them, because, they could be there, they could be not there, but why not elicit some help? But yeah, with the story, just wanting to learn and read all I can, and then also talk to people about their different ghost experiences, because, everyone can't be making this up, right?
Right.
So and there's so much. I felt like I just scratched the surface, and I'm kind of obsessed now.
Well, as you said,
terrified.
You are an academic. The other things you've written are all based on other things, historical, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're into ghosts, and specifically in New Orleans, which I can't think of a better place to start. What did you see there? What did you find there that said, hey, this is real?
Yes. Well, I grew up in a haunted house.
Okay.
So I think you've lived in haunted houses before too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So as a child, when you grow up with something or you see something, even if it's just one paranormal experience your whole life, it just sticks with you. And it kind of changes the way you view the world or view possibility. But do you want me to tell you like a story about our poltergeist? So
now, is this in New Orleans?
This is in New Orleans, in the house that I grew up in. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was about 6 years old, and I was home, and I was watching Star Wars with my brother, who was about 15. And, in New Orleans, not all neighborhoods are very safe. There's a lot of crime in the city. So we grew up on Carrollton Avenue on the streetcar line in this house, raised Creole cottage from the 1860s. So there was cracks in the walls. It had actually been a house that had been owned by my grandfather and his family, and had been passed down to my mom. And it just had this history. But I'm watching Star Wars with my brother, and I hear the sound of like a jingle jangle of the doorknob to the back door. And I said, that's odd. And I'm a child. I'm like 6 years old, because we have like metal security doors in front of the actual door. So you can't actually turn the knob. And then my brother and I look over at the door, and all of a sudden it just gets pushed, slammed open. This running blur, poltergeist, I think it was, just ran through the TV room. And then all of our rooms are all connected in this old house, through the kitchen. Every painting on the wall and every photograph was askew from this kind of force of wind. It was a blur, and it wasn't just like a wind. It was some kind of spirit. My dad is in the kitchen washing dishes, and he feels this cold hand on his back, and he thinks that's either me or my brother. But he turns around and nothing's there. And this huge blur runs out the kitchen door, opens it, and slams it shut, and then leaves on the back of the door a black rectangle of soot that had that was like a marking. We didn't know if it was protection or if it was a curse or what it was, but we would try to clean it off, and it kept coming back for like months. And eventually it went away. But we would tell people this story and show them we can wipe this mark off the door, but the next day it's back. And so once my brother and I and my dad had this experience, then it's like, this can't be a dream. I don't think this is a shared hallucination. I want to invite the skeptics to help me. I mean, I saw you were a police officer. I like that you have the approach of like an investigation, like what are the facts? What's possible? And just the fact that it was something that felt human and felt non-human at the same time and terrified us and kind of shook our house. That changed everything,
So from that point on, did you have any more experiences in that house? Was this a routine thing?
Yes, but I don't like to talk about that.
Okay.
I did, and my dad, he's an Irish American, and he loves telling ghost stories and scaring me and my siblings. But he was sick and he had like pneumonia or something. And on our house, my parents built an additional like room for there to become their master bedroom. And my dad was sick in bed, and he woke up and he saw his closet door open, and this wartime nurse in a veil emerged from the closet door, come up to him, kind of inspecting him, like looking and like making sure he's okay because he was sick. And he said he could see the wrinkles on her face, like how old she was. And then she just walked in and out. She left. And he left. He got out of bed, terrified, and he walked out into the dining room. And my sister says, "You look like you've seen a ghost, Dad." And he said, I have. And so that it was, he thought she was a nurse. She looked like she was from the 1800s. And when I see like women in Creole mourning gear, like the long veils and the long dresses, like as a kid, sometimes in the mirror, I'd see a quick reflection of her face and then it would disappear. Maybe I'm making this up. Maybe I'm just creative. Sometimes through the doorway, like you see something in the corner of your eye, I'd see the edge of her skirt real quick. Okay.
I understand.
And sometimes I'd be sleeping and feel like someone was watching me. And one time I thought I saw something sitting. But so things like, we had a resident ghost. One time we had a babysitter at the house, and she called my parents and told them to come home from a dinner date. And they said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, there's a ghost hovering above your washing machine, and I'm never coming here again." So we have these kind of experiences, and people, they've seen us, or we've seen different kinds of ghosts in this house. Another time, look, I went out of focus. I don't know how to turn myself back into focus. Another time, my sister and I were playing with Barbie dolls in our room. And do you remember the stereos back in the day that had like a cassette tape player?
Oh, sure.
So the cassette tape player opened, the cassette tape levitated, moved 3 inches, and dropped to the floor. And my sister and I just look at that. We look at each other. And we just go back to playing with Barbies. I guess this is normal, right? So I believe having those experiences, and then talking to, as I was writing the book, I'm interviewing my family. I'm interviewing my dad. One time he saw a ghost, this man just in our living room, and he was looking for his shoes. He was like lost, and then he disappeared. And sometimes I've heard with houses with antiques or older houses, spirits can get confused and they're lost. My mom told me some stories too that she never revealed to me when I was a child. My brother told me a ghost story. So there's definitely that house. Our family sold it. They've done renovations since then, but I'm dying to one day having the courage to talk to the owner and just asking, "Hey, have you seen anything?
Yeah.
Been missing?" Like, one time a pair of shoes, one of the shoes just disappeared and they never found it. It's like that's like things like that happening, And so I think it all comes from living in a haunted house as a kid.
Okay, but now you've lived in not only the haunted house, but one of the most haunted, if not the most haunted cities, one of the oldest cities in America, but it is so incredibly haunted. Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't have all the answers, but I have a lot of possibilities, theories. One is New Orleans history. It has a history of a very dark time. It has a history of a lot of change. It has a history of a lot of trauma. It also has a lot of beauty and culture. And like you mentioned earlier, like the best food and the best music, and the people are always so warm and welcoming. And if you move there, people would love you, Dan. You'd automatically be embraced by the city. And so I think that the history of the city and the fact when you walk on these cobblestone streets in the French Quarter, it's almost like those memories are still there under the ground and you kind of absorb them. I was speaking with a waiter, and she told me sometimes she sits at Jackson Square, she just closes her eyes and she can hear like cannons of like a battle of New Orleans, and she can hear the carriages and the mules. Some of them actually are still in the French Quarter, but that's still kind of replaying. So I wonder if, because the French Quarter is so old and a lot of it hasn't changed, and much of the Historic Preservation Society has tried to keep things having that the same buildings.
Sure.
But I think that history is part of it. And then another theory too is that when I was in Ireland at the Tyrone Guthrie Center, this residency for artists, someone told me that in Celtic mythology, they believe that there are special parts of the earth where the veil is thinner. And it's almost like an energetic vortex that attracts, I don't know, something maybe like Sedona here, where people say it's a vortex, attracts a lot of energy.
Sure.
So I wonder if New Orleans, based on just where it exists, if that's why. So what do you think?
I would always lean more towards the history of it.
Okay.
Jackson Square, the Spanish executed people in the streets there. So
Yes.
that would definitely cause some stress and problems.
Yes. The families go to watch these public executions and then they have a picnic. I mean, it's really sick.
But there was so much of that in that. And of course, New Orleans treated their slaves far better than other places. They had laws against harming your people, but still slavery is a terrible thing. So I'm sure that's a big part of it. Voodoo,
right? It was
the people from all these different cultures bringing their beliefs in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I agree. Something about that. The history of the city, and also what it's kind of lived through with hurricanes, major fires ravaging the French Quarter of the city, burning down the cathedral twice, and then something about New Orleans, what I love about New Orleans is they always bounce back. They're here to stay and we'll rebuild. It might take a year, it might take 10, it might take 20, but it always emerges even more beautiful, I think. So maybe that's why linger there, or ghosts from other places like to go there because of the beauty in the city. And also I think New Orleanians see death a different way than other places. And they recognize ghosts, I think, maybe different than other places. It's kind of more of like, ghosts are real. Let's not talk about it. But everybody kind of has their story,
What about the way New Orleans treat death with parades and loud noises and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to everywhere else in the country? It's a quiet, solemn time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The jazz bands, the second line, the color, the candor, the drama, the wailing, the celebration. My mom went to a funeral, or a friend went to a funeral a couple of weeks ago. She came back and she said, I just went to the most fabulous funeral. It was so much fun. There was food, hors d'oeuvres being served. There was dancing. And she even thought maybe the spirit of this actor who passed away kind of conjured that or created that because he wanted to, after he passed, create some sort of celebration for the people that he cared about. So yeah, we do celebrate death a little bit differently. I think it's a very Catholic town too, and there is voodoo. I'm really interested in voodoo too. I wrote a book about New Orleans voodoo because I was curious about the deep faith and the spiritual practice and how that really influences the personality of the city.
Now, I missed the one you wrote on voodoo. I've been wanting to do shows just on that. So,
yes. Well, this is my Marie Laveau doll. Hopefully this doll doesn't scare you, but I do have a Marie Laveau doll. She was I can always come back and talk about it, but I'm an outsider. I was just discovering and learning more, but I learned that she was the voodoo queen of New Orleans, and she would dance with snakes, and she would talk to the dead, and she was an incredible philanthropist. Who help people. Some people, practitioners in New Orleans now, voodoo practitioners, believe that she was a saint, and some still say she walks the street of New Orleans. So I always have the utmost respect for.
She is still taking care of people in New Orleans. I've seen it.
Tell me more.
Just people throw money and ask for favors and put money on her grave. Well, I was going through St. Louis Cemetery. Number one, and I seen an old guy in a suit bow down, and he was picking the money up. And about an hour later, he was coming out of a restaurant with a sandwich. He was obviously homeless.
Okay.
But she's still taking care of him because the money there is being used to help these people, apparently.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's really good. I mean, I think that that's what I learned about voodoo is, even in the ceremonies that I've been to, we're always celebrating ancestors. So, we talk about voodoo. There's a chapter in this book, it's a guidebook just about voodoo if people are curious about it. It's also one of those things that I've learned that people want to know about, but they don't want to talk about it. Yeah. Like voodoo it holds a lot of power. It holds a lot of mystery. It also has a lot of incorrect information and stereotypes about this sacred spirituality that I'm hoping to teach people about. But in voodoo, they invite the spirits of our ancestors to come, like other world religions, and to share messages. Help us along that path or guide us. And sometimes they can actually, people can channel them. So that's kind of interesting to see too.
It's a very interesting religion. And I love the way they brought the Catholicism into the African and Haitian religion.
Exactly, because it was illegal for them to practice their spirituality. So, the different, like Shango, the god of war, is, a Saint Diana or something. The idea that we can pick the beautiful qualities of their Lawaz or their deities, like their saints, and they could find similar saints in Catholicism is really interesting and exciting.
It is. And I was at the Voodoo Museum down there 2 years ago. Interesting place. Nice lady running it. Have you been in there yet?
I have. I love the Voodoo Museum. It's wonderful. Did you see the altars there, or what did you?
Yes.
What did you see?
So the altars, but I was more amazed at the history of it. They had paintings of things that had happened there in the past. They had just newspaper articles about these people that was so old and so aged, but they were framed. And I spent more time reading the articles than I did anything else. Yes.
And then, I look at your skeleton in your background. They have all these skeletons there because this idea of if death, it's just kind of like this is all who we are. Like we're all going to die. We're going to become ancestors. And, that's what we look like. We look like these skeletons when it comes down to it. So let's celebrate it rather than run away from it or hide from it. And I love how people put, a cigarette or a rolled up dollar bill in a skull's mouth, or just mementos, and asking for hey, can you help me with this, or can you open the path, or can you shed some guidance on whatever. But it's beautiful that people use prayer as a way to ask for help and to change their futures.
And I'm sure it also helps them start seeing things from a different point of view.
Yes. And they're great stores too, like Voodoo Authentica in New Orleans is owned by Voodoo priestess Brandy Kelly. And, you can go there and get a Voodoo reading. And I've had Voodoo readings done at the Isle of Salvation Botanica with Sally Ann Glassman. Okay. And it's been illuminating. So I would definitely say people are curious, try it out, visit New Orleans, get a reading and see what you learn.
I
Yeah.
recommend everyone go there once at least.
At least. You said in your email that you stayed at the Andrew Jackson Hotel, which is supposedly
Last
haunted. And I would like to
October
know
a year
more about
ago.
that.
Well, I was not ghost hunting. I was actually there introducing my daughter and her husband to the city. They'd never been there. They are not ghost people. They are foodies. So Brennan's and Napoleon and all of these, Napoleon House, we were hitting the restaurants. But usually when I'm there, I'm taking ghost tours. I did ghost hunt one place, Bloody Mary. I'm sure you know of her. She's now got her store in the building where you remember the guy who killed his girlfriend? They had survived the hurricane, and then he killed her up there. Well, she's got her voodoo store in that place now.
Okay.
But
oh
again,
my gosh.
Other than that, I take the tours. I have been in the Jackson. Nothing happened to us there, but I've talked to ghost hunters who had so much go on in there. They've ghost hunted it like 10 or 12 times now.
Yeah, I have not had any experiences there, but a friend of mine who gives ghost tours, she tells people if they ask where to stay there. And then sometimes they get very upset with her because they're not prepared to experience a haunting. But, different places, these ghosts may emerge, and some people are really attracted to that. I had one friend I talked to, and she told me she was sleeping in a hotel and she felt like 1,000 hands underneath her on the mattress, like pushing her up. And her friend was in another bed in the same room and didn't experience anything. And at the time she had a candle lit and she was practicing voodoo and she was inviting in these spirits or curious. But after that experience, she realized, you have to put boundaries and kind of protect yourself and close yourself off. You don't want to be open to everything.
Too open,
so yes. But then you mentioned the Napoleon House too. That restaurant is supposed to be haunted. Yes. Do you want to hear about some of the hauntings that I learned?
Can we pick that up right after this commercial, Rory? I got to step away.
Okay, sure.
Be right back. Friends, if you haven't been to the Crescent City, first off, there are hundreds of ghost tours there. There is so many different ones to take. Take several. Take the vampire tour, the zombies tours, the voodoo tours. They're all there. They're all ready, and they are a lot of fun. And I do want to show you this real quick, and I will be right back with more with Dr. Schmitt. Hang on. There it is.
The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to Research a Haunted House can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unexmedia.com or amazon.com. The Unex Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes, made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the Unex Network website at unexnetwork.com. That's unexnetwork.com.
All right, friends. At the end of the show, we'll talk about joining the UNX network and all the neat stuff you get for that. But I want to get back to Dr. Rory O'Neill Schmitt and talking about her book, The Haunted Guide to New Orleans. And like she said, I've written articles about it. Specifically, I wrote a huge article on vampires down there and the legends. But God, I love that town. I love talking about it. So go ahead. You were going to talk about the hotel. No, the Napoleon House, wasn't it? Okay, Rory, for some reason you're blocked on your side. I don't have you muted here, so you must be muted on your side.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
Perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. Maybe the spirits were messing with my tech.
I think it was your doll.
Or my doll, yes. Maybe I should put her on more. So my mom had a reading with this voodoo priestess, and she said, my mom said, is it okay if I record this? And she said, well, yes, that's fine, but sometimes the recordings don't come through. The spirits don't like that. The spirit world doesn't like that. Or sometimes you might hear things in the recording that you didn't hear in the session. And so she said she went home and she listened to the recording of this reading, and she heard like squealing and like screaming and all this like like very scary, like she's like, it's a demonic or something was happening. But that's just an example of maybe, and some people believe that spirits can interact with technology. And when I was writing the book, somehow my cursor kept going back to this one section of the book where I actually talk about spirits interacting. I don't know why I kept it. Well, I do know why. I mean, potentially, the spirits were doing it. But anyways, about the Napoleon House, it was built in 1797. A distant cousin of mine, Susan Brennan, owns the restaurant. She owns Brennan's restaurant too.
Oh, wow. Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, we filmed part of The Elegant Dead Trap with Dolls. The very opening scene in the trailer and the with all the dolls is actually filmed on their second floor. So this house was built for Napoleon, who never actually made it there, but it became the residence for the mayor of New Orleans. And, it's 3 stories high. And they also have this cupola, this tower on the top. And so I met with a wonderful person, staff who worked there, and interviewed her about ghosts, and I was learning about different experiences. And she took me to this attic. And then we walked up this spiral staircase. It's pretty scary, to this cupola. And it was a 360 degree view of the city. And she said that, this is where the mayor's militia would watch the Mississippi River for pirates.
Okay.
Yeah. So I said, oh, it's interesting. And it's still here. Now, of course, there's like, there's skyscrapers, but sometimes people will do photo shoots. Like a bride will want to do a photo shoot up there, or, a teenager for their high school picture. And she told me that a photographer was going through the photos, and in one of she was photographing like a teenage young woman, and in the windows, these old windows were open, and in the reflection in the window was the face of a little boy.
Wow. And
she showed me the picture. I wasn't allowed to print the picture in the book, but she was very terrified. This photographer was very confused because there were only 2 women in that room. There was no child. So I was just curious. Right. There's this kind of lost little boy. And so I was asking her just about New Orleans and these different hauntings and these places. And she was telling me at certain places like attics and other parts of the city in the French Quarter is where when people got yellow fever or the plague, they would just send them to these attics and lock them away, and all these people would just die. And I said, no wonder the city is so haunted.
That's a good reason.
And she said, even, in these older homes, if people didn't have money, sometimes the bodies were buried in the wall. Dan.
I hadn't heard that.
Yes. She said also, and I had read this as well, that people, they didn't have money, they wanted to be in like St. Louis Cemetery #1 or #2. They wanted to be buried in these kind of elite, really beautiful cemeteries. But if they didn't have money, they would just kind of go rogue and they would bury bodies in people's yards nearby the cemetery, right? As close as possible. So I was meeting with this historic preservation architect, and he has told me multiple times they're doing renovations. As someone was building a swimming pool, and he pulled up all these crypts because it used to be a cemetery in New Orleans. And so they've got to figure out, what do we do? It's like commonplace for historic architects. Another time they were doing renovations to a church, and they found, these bodies of priests buried there. And that becomes part of the process. What do you do with the bodies? Who is in charge of removing them? For this case, it was the church. But then also to talk to the new owners. Are you okay with this? Are you okay that there may be bodies buried underneath here? And, removing them or keeping them there, or places like he was telling me Pauper's Field, they didn't even build because they think it was a burial place. They don't.
Okay.
Now, this person I met with, he's not interested in ghosts, but he knows that the city has a history, a very haunted path. And past, he told me, in New Orleans, death is literally under your feet. You're walking on the dead, which is kind of terrifying to think about. All the people buried in a very small area. Yeah,
there is. Yeah, and the way they do the funerals and the way they do the burials is so different from anywhere else.
Yes. And something else I remember learning at the Napoleon House. I don't know who's haunting these places. I don't know what, but I know that enough activity happens in certain places that it scares staff. She was telling me at night they lock up, all the buildings and the rooms, and sometimes they'll hear a knocking coming from within.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where this happens all the times, they have to open the building back up, open the rooms, and they go and there's nothing there.
Right.
Other people, someone told me they saw like a kind of a black shadow figure moving back and forth. But these ancient courtyards and these old buildings, it's just always kind of there, and you kind of have your eyes, facing forward, but you're always kind of considering what else might just pop up.
Yeah.
You're there.
Yeah. The town is just so incredible. I run out of things to say about it because I love it so much.
Yeah.
The one hotel, which was our favorite, I've stayed in there a couple times, and that was called the Hotel St. Helene.
Oh, okay. I have not been there.
And right around the corner in the same building is the Apothecary Museum.
Okay.
Where some illegal abortions allegedly took place.
Yes. And the pharmacist.
Yes. That's in the same building as the St. Helene.
Ah, okay. Yes. So, I've heard women, they go to the second floor, and pregnant women will have pains in their stomach because it's almost like they sense something, or they feel something, or that might be warned, or maybe they're being hunted. Spirits of ghosts of children and women in the courtyard have been found, and they actually did find bodies. I heard, back there, that this terrible, evil person, now my camera's out of focus again, Dad.
Get your doll. Get your doll back on there.
No, come on. There you go. Okay, come on. I gotta name her. So yeah, but I mean, what I do want to say about New Orleans is there could be some good ghosts. And that, I'd love to tell you about the Hurricane Katrina ghost, if you would like to hear all that.
Please, yes.
So, as you all know, Hurricane Katrina was in 2005 when August decimated the city, and a lot of people stayed. A lot of residents stayed. They were used to kind of living through hurricanes. my sister has a rule, if it's above a category 3, then they leave, or, people like to kind of ride it out. Some people have parties doing it, but most people do leave when it's dangerous. So
Sure.
this person that I spoke with, she said that she evacuated with her family, but the grandmother who lived in Lakeview, which is by City Park, did not evacuate them. She was supposed to leave with their cousin. So come to find out, the hurricane comes, they're calling, they can't get through to her. When they're finally able to return to the city, her entire house has been picked up off its foundation and moved like a block away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, this woman was a sweet, elderly old woman. So they were concerned about it. No one had seen her, and they can't find her grandmother. And she had said that, this is really dark, but because the bodies had been decomposing for so long, the fingerprints weren't visible anymore. So to look for her grandmother's body, she had brought her dental records, and she's walking around, and she's just being a detective, trying to find out what happened to her grandmother. Where is she? She had one day, several months passed. She's in the French Quarter. She went out to eat. So she with her family, and they're just trying to, have a good experience, after all this tragedy. And she goes out to her car, and there's this man. Looks like he's in his 60s, balding, with white hair, wearing a button-down shirt and jeans, and he's just sitting on the hood of her car. And she and her husband go out, and he calls out, Deanna. She said, who is this person? I don't recognize him. Who is he? And he goes to her and he says, listen, I have a message for you where you can find your grandmother. And so he had written on a piece of paper this address in the warehouse district. So if you go to this building, you'll find her. You'll find your grandmother. And she was such a sweet lady. I just wanted to tell you this, and I'm hoping that you're at peace with this. And then he gets up and walks away. He looks like as real as you and I. And that's why I'm also like, are you a ghost? Who's a ghost? Who's real? He's just really 4D. You could touch him. He, is a person. And so she says to her husband, we got to go. And her husband says, we're going to get robbed. This is this is
a setup. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, we don't want to go to the warehouse. It's this dark neighborhood at night, and who knows what we're being jumped. And she said, I'm going. Whatever, I'm going. So she goes, her husband goes with her. They go to this warehouse. It's all locked up. She calls the police. She said, listen, I met this man. He says I can find my grandmother's body, or my grandmother here. I think she's dead. And so the police open it up. They spend several hours, and she didn't tell me the 3 hours she spent in this building, what she came across. But she said that she found the body of her grandmother. And this brought a lot of relief to her family. And so afterwards, the police called her up, and they said, they wanted to take a statement from her about her experience or encounter with this gentleman and what it was like. They said, 5 other people came to us this last week and told us something very similar about where they could find their deceased relative. And the description matches up as the same man. So they showed photographs of people matching the description, or New Orleans had employee records and photographs and shit. So she pointed out, they all pointed out this one person. And Deanna said, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I'd love to meet him. Where can I find him? And the detective looked up at her. He said, you'd have to go to the cemetery. He died 20 years ago.
Okay.
That's what I believe there are guardian angels out there, or ghosts who are guardian angels or spirits, because a lot of people have the same experience. And I think about people who may have encountered him and didn't go to the warehouse or the address and didn't find their relative.
Sure.
But later she met with this person's family, and come to find out he was a maintenance worker at Charity Hospital, where her grandmother was a nurse. And towards the end of his life, he was having a hard time transitioning and crossing over. And she held his hand and she sang to him and she comforted him in these last hours and last days of his life. And she was really special to him. And his daughter showed a picture of her grandmother and him in that hospital bed. So it's pretty incredible when you hear stories like that. She didn't believe in ghosts either until she had that experience. She said, I'm Catholic, my family's Catholic, and we're not supposed to believe in ghosts, but we believe in the Holy Spirit. We believe in all these other things.
Right.
Like, why are we shortchanged? Why not have an openness to believe in believe in ghosts? So that's the ghost of Guardian Angel Ghost,
To get simple, he owed her a favor.
Yeah, he did.
So he repaid it by helping her family get closure. So that's an awesome story. I love that one.
It's incredible. I met with, some people have had positive experience with ghosts, not terrorizing. And, I met this woman who said that she saw this elderly person and he looked kind of down and out. She went to help him in her neighborhood. She brought him groceries and he talked to her, showed her a picture. She goes back to the same house a week later. This person never lived there. They don't know who she, but she's like, I've been in this house. I spoke with this person. And so it just makes me wonder, are spirits able to return, even if it's just for a short time, even if it's just to walk the earth again or to relay a message? It's very curious to me when we hear about these ghost stories, but I also have heard of very scary experiences too.
Of course. So what about the Hotel Montleone? I know that's allegedly haunted. I stayed in there one weekend.
I did too. I did not sleep well. How did you sleep?
Oh, kind of fitfully, yeah.
So I felt like there was something like watching. I don't like that experience of like this came in. It doesn't feel like there's like someone in the room. And my best friend was actually with me because we were researching this book, and she's like, yeah, I heard like some rattling of like a bottle or something in the room in the middle of the night. We didn't see anything, but you could definitely feel things. And, as a ghost enthusiast or curiosity, I'm always careful about how I don't know if you have any advice for how to approach people, but I'm careful just wanting to ask, I asked the hostess at the restaurant, the Montleone. So, have you ever seen the ghost of Maurice? Like, what do you think about all that?
Yeah.
And once you establish some trust and rapport and respectful dialogue, people will tell you, he's always stealing things from the housekeeping parts, and causing a ruckus. Or, there's another ghost there that the maitre d' told me, he was in the kitchen of the restaurant and he felt a hand clutch his shoulder and pull him back, and he turns and there's nothing there. He's seen chairs move in the restaurant. There's a video of it looks like some kind of spirit ruffling through a bag and like pulling things out. And so there's definitely, I don't know if they want to talk about it too much because I think some guests are scared by that. But with a person who was there, who a patron of the hotel, she told me she was just in the elevator and all of a sudden someone pressed like number 13, or whatever on the elevator. And she thinks maybe that was Maurice. And so just weird encounters in the hotel there and that's just, I stayed there 2 nights. So the legend that you read or hear about, if you go to these places and actually talk to people, they often will tell you like, actually, yes, we do believe there is, or we've experienced different things. And it might not be a dramatic event, but it might just be things go missing, or like, this other person told me he was cleaning all the window blinds and he closed them all in the room. He turned around and they're all open. Just got to chill, like stuff like that, like doesn't just happen on his own. I mean, there has to be some spirit or something kind of. It's almost sometimes it feels like they're toying with you a little bit. They just want to remind you that they're there. But it was frustrating to them.
I think ghosts want attention sometimes. They get lonely.
I do too. And, I think it's important, just to recognize them. I stayed in a relative's basement and I definitely felt like there was some kind of malevolent force there. I had to get a voodoo priestess to come do an exorcism because, some places, and I've met with people who, paranormal researchers,
and they call in religious leaders to assist with some of these darker forces. And I spoke with an Episcopalian, a priest, and she told me that for anything with kind of spirit related or haunted or they call them exorcisms, that the bishop has to actually come in. It can't just be a priest. And she had a haunted church. So she had a couple of hauntings at her church on St. Charles Avenue. But people they don't start conversations like this. You have to say, this is anonymous. I'm not going to say your name. And so I'm just so curious. I know since the book has come out, there are more places, like apparently the Loyola University Law Library. I was at a district bookshop, and someone told me books sometimes just fly off the shelf. And so it's just kind of, I don't know, part of the resonance of New Orleans, this ghost.
Rory, I don't know if you're in touch with any of the ghost hunters down there, but I've interviewed a couple. I'll get you their contact information. They were really friendly and helpful and telling me stories about the Jackson and some of the other places.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I would love that. I'd love to meet with more people who have this shared interest, because there's a lot to learn, and I feel like it's more important to arm yourself with knowledge and be prepared than just live in denial,
Well, I hate to say our time's up. Gosh, I've been loving this conversation. But you wrote this book, Haunted Guide to New Orleans, Ghosts, Vampires, and Voodoo Protection. I wish I'd thought to ask you about the vampires at the time, because the legends are awesome.
Yes. I mean, Anne Rice is an icon, and those cemeteries, those crypts, those above ground tombs are still alive and pulsating with ghosts.
And the Ursuline building that allegedly had vampires in the upper levels.
Yes, and slots in the floor for coffins, and an area with chains and a partition where someone was held in chains and held apart like an evil force. Yeah, there's a lot of mystery about it. So that mystery creates more interest rather than yes. And so I am curious more about learning about vampires, and for me too, the sensuality of a vampire is very.
Oh, that's it. From Bela Lugosi on, it was that. That's so. But anyway, don't go away, because I will talk to you after the show. But thanks for being on. And again, the book here is The Haunted Guide to New Orleans, and we also got to talk more about that video you directed, which was. Let's see. What was the name of it again?
It's called The Elegant Dead, and I have it on YouTube now. But Melissa Farley and Samantha Bringus, we filmed in New Orleans and in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was about haunted houses, haunted dolls, and ghost erotica. So,
okay. Now there was you sent me the one. And then I think your assistant sent me 2 more links. So is there more than one episode?
Well, we have a trailer, and then we have Act 1 and Act 2 as separate files. So if you wanted to just show 5 minutes, or if you wanted to watch, it's only 10 minutes. If you wanted to watch the whole 10 minutes, but yeah, I'd check it out, because we're excited to share. We hope to film more stories from the book, because those stories are actually included in the Ghost book.
Well, if you ever get another book out, please let me know, because we got to get you back on here. And anytime you feel like talking about New Orleans, or if you find something in Arizona, Tombstone's really an interesting place.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Let me know. All right, stand by. I'll be right back with you. All right, my friends, running low again, but I always do, because I love talking to these people. And Rory was just awesome, wasn't she? I do want to chat with you just a little bit about joining the UNX Network. Just go to unxnetwork.com. And you know what? I keep saying that. It is unxnetwork.com. We have changed the name to the Unexplained Network. I should be calling it that. Anyway, go to unxnetwork.com and drop down. There's a way to join, and you get so much out of it. Like I said, you get access to the blog. The blog has been coming out a lot lately, because there's so much going on with the cryptids, the UFOs. We were right on top of the Tic Tacs. We were right on top of the Navy coming out and saying, yes, we've been following these things for some time. Our fighter planes are going after it. So that kind of news comes out there very much. And there's, after the blog, the newsletter, it comes out several times a week. Mostly there's some new stuff going on, or an article that someone wanted published. It's great. I've had a couple published there. And it also talks about what shows are coming out. Onyx Network has so many shows, guys. Cryptids, conspiracy. There's 3 or 4 shows about ghosts. Stay Haunted, My Most Haunted. Michelle Roos has one out of Iowa. She runs Riverside Paranormal. All kinds of us are in here talking about it. But if it's ghosts you're into, if it's cryptids, if it's conspiracies, if it's all kinds of stuff, it's on the Onyx Network, and you're missing out. Also, if you join, you get the magazine sent to you by email every other month. And these are just a couple. The one on the left, the dark one, I've got 2 articles in, one on Halloween legends. And the legends are not Sleepy Hollow or Frankenstein. These are razor blades in the apples, drugs in the candy, the stuff that come out in the 70s. Cults were looking to kidnap blonde-haired, blue-eyed children. I remember when all that was hitting. And each one of those had some small piece of reality, a nugget of truth in the middle of it. So had that. I also had an article, as you can see, on the haunted battleship North Carolina, which is right here. Did one I showed you earlier on haunted dolls. And, of course, the one on the Devil's Diner. And so many more. I've wrote articles on the vampires of New Orleans, vampires in America. So many articles, haunted places I've been to. So all of this comes just by joining up. You need to check that out and see what there is. And again, I'm running late, as always. So I do, again, want to thank Dr. Schmitt. She was awesome and a lot of good stories. Hey, seriously, how did you like the one about the ghost telling this lady where her grandmother was? That was just textbook New Orleans, guys. Seriously, she's right. Everyone down there is so friendly. Even the dead is friendly and helpful. But anyway, there is a lot going on. Join up. Thanks again to her. And I want you guys all, and the most important thing of all, it's winter time now. We're starting to get cooler. So Christmas is coming up. I want you all to stay warm, stay dry. And I guess most important thing of all is stay spooked. Good night.